That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about It's a Wonderful Knife, the third film directed by Tyler MacIntyre, which just premiered at the 2023 Beyond Festival. It is being released courtesy of RLJE Entertainment on November 10th, 2023.
Do I know Tyler's other films?
Patchwork and Tragedy Girls? No, but Tragedy Girls does sound interesting. Notably, he wrote Five Nights at Freddy's, which just came out in theaters recently. And Matthew Kennedy, who wrote the script for this, also wrote the script for Freaky, starring Catherine Newton and Vince Vaughn, which, if you think about it, has a very similar vibe.
Interesting. The premise for this film. After saving her town from a psychotic killer, Winnie Carruthers' life is less than wonderful. When she wishes she'd never been born, she finds herself in a nightmare parallel universe where without her, things could be much, much worse. What's your pull quote?
Dull, derivative, and woefully uninspired, this horror comedy is far from being the sharpest knife in the drawer, often feeling like holodazzle queersploitation with its one-dimensional characters and lazy plotting.
Mine. I felt like I had taken crazy pills after finishing this film. It's doing too many things, none of them well.
I mean, a Xanax would have helped.
I'm sorry. I did not care for this movie at all.
No, I was with it, not with it, but I'm like thinking this is maybe subpar at best, but not terrible until one particular scene where I really was tired of it.
So the film is set in a little town called Angel Falls. Mm-hmm. It's like one of those, it almost looks like all those towns in those Lifetime Christmas movies, like the perfect, snowy, small town environment. And there's this property development person played by Justin Long.
Mm-hmm. Henry Waters.
He's kind of evil. He's just buying up everything to make it all commercial. But we find out there's one local holding out. He will not sell his home. So Justin Long has an assistant played by Joel McHale. Joel McHale, everyone likes him. Like, he's from the town. People trust him. So Justin Long says, Joel, you go talk to this old man and convince him to sell his house. So we see them go, and the old man's like, hell no.
On Christmas Eve.
I'm not doing it. No one wants this. You're not getting my house. So we see later that night, that man is killed by a character that looks like...
Moon Knight.
Literally looks like Moon Knight.
Oscar Isaac's costume in Moon Knight.
Okay. So getting to the main character, Winnie Carruthers.
Mm-hmm. Played by Jane Widdop of Yellow Jackets.
Oh, she's the daughter of Joel McHale. She ends up stopping the killer who has already killed her best friend. Mm-hmm. And we see that the killer is Justin Long. Surprise, surprise. And that's within like the first, 6-7 minutes.
And notably saves her brother, who almost gets killed with the knife is to his throat.
That's right. So we flash forward 1 year, and we see Winnie has been greatly affected by the deaths of that occurred a year prior.
Didn't change her hair, though.
So, yeah, she still has time to curl her hair out. But she witnesses the aurora borealis, those lights, like the northern lights in the sky, and she makes a wish. She wishes she had never been born. So then, of course, like every other movie like this, now her world changes, and no one knows who she is. So she's walking around town confused, but the killings never stopped. Because if she had never been born, she wouldn't have stopped Justin Long. And we find out that these killings have been happening regularly. So, like, prominent members of the town who own property, their children have been murdered, like, every couple of weeks.
Which is giving me Killers of the Flower Moon vibe, but...
And it doesn't seem to be a big deal. Like, the FBI hasn't descended onto Angel Falls.
The sheriff is Justin Long's brother, Buck, played by Shane Deppner.
And it's hypothesized that because Justin Long is now the mayor in this alternate universe, and his brother's the sheriff, that they're able to cover all this up. These like bi-weekly murders. Mm-hmm. But of course, Winnie's on the scene trying to figure things out. Whatever. She partners with this girl named Barney.
Mm-hmm. Played by Jess McLeod.
And they are able to figure out or stop the killer. And we find out that Justin Long did do some killings, but then he pawns it off on Joel McHale. So the killer we see being stopped is Joel McHale.
Wearing the same luminescent, bright white costume that would be illogical for bloodshed.
Yeah, there's no blood on these costumes. But anyway, so now they've solved the case. So Winnie goes back to the Aurora Borealis lights.
Which are fading, and they have a scene where the two young women decide that, hey, if the lights fade, I probably can't get back to reality.
So she goes back and wishes her life would go back to what it was. And it does.
And except the twist is that Bernie has the same memory of what happened. So they're in love.
Then there's a side story where the two girls, I guess, are in love now. The end.
The Incredibly True Adventure of... What's that movie? The Incredibly True Story of Two Girls in Love?
I was rolling my eyes the entire time. The only thing I kind of enjoyed was Justin Long, which is funny because this is the third horror film he's in that I thought was crap, where he's the best part.
Yeah. Is it House of Darkness?
House of Darkness.
Neil LaBute, and then Dear David.
Dear David, and now this movie. But other than him wearing some false teeth, there was nothing about this movie I enjoyed.
And blue-colored contacts. He was giving me some kind of vibes. I couldn't decide if it was like...
Yeah, I couldn't quite.
Tom Hanks with that terrible rug on his head. But
yeah, I didn't care for the story. There's so much about it that just feels like underdeveloped. I didn't like how the film looked.
Yeah, poor Nicholas Piatnik, who also lends the segment of VHS 99 that Tyler MacIntyre directed. It looks like it looks worse than probably a Lifetime movie. And of course, the title is paying homage to another subtext. It's a Wonderful Life, the classic Frank Capra Christmas film with Jimmy Stewart. And there's one really clunky line that's trying to sell it. And these teenage girls in 2023, I doubt know the character names from It's a Wonderful Life, but Bernie says, "You're George Bailey," and Winnie says, "Will you be my Clarence?"
Yeah.
No, they wouldn't say that.
I'm gonna get in trouble for this, but when we finished the movie, it made me feel kind of homophobic because I got so tired of all the queer elements. Like this horror comedy, and the main thing I'm thinking is like, oh, there are a lot of queer people. Like that's all I was left with because Winnie's brother is gay, Winnie's aunt is a lesbian, and then in the end, Winnie turns out to be, I mean, I guess at least pansexual or bisexual.
They're all like happily partnered up with equally good-looking people too, so it's it would work if they weren't so one-dimensional. It feels like lip service. It
just felt like a choice. It's like, so y'all were more concerned about having all these queer characters than telling like a story that made sense or was fun or interesting, because it's not effective as a slasher, it's not effective as a comedy. There's a moment where, so Bernie, who's nicknamed Weirdo, which I don't understand. Well,
she's the town pariah.
She's the town pariah, which I'm a little confused by because she seems like a sweet, nice person. I will say she is going on my worst hair and makeup list.
Yeah, they make her look dead.
She looks garish. She looks like Betty Davis in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane.
And I don't know if that's maybe partially the light, how they lit her.
I think it's the cinematography and the lighting because she does look ghostly, but then her makeup's not accommodating for that because her rouge, she looks like a little cherub. It was very distracting.
And I'm saying her in identification of the character, but Jess McLeod, as I understand it, is a non-binary performer.
Oh, okay.
To be clear.
Yeah, there's a moment where she has kind of like, it kind of took my breath away because she tells Winnie that she, like the night she found her, she was going to commit suicide. That felt unnecessarily dark, and it literally took my breath away. Like, this movie doesn't feel like it deserves that moment.
Again, it's too one-dimensional. If we're really trying to make a horror comedy out of It's a Wonderful Life, there is so much feeling and poignancy in that Capra film that this does not even come near, but I can see where that was the idea of it. However, this feels like the first draft version of what the screenwriter ended up doing to make Freaky. Like this should have been. This feels like it should have been scraps because there are too many things that it's similar to that are better.
Then the pacing feels weird because within the first few minutes we realize who the killer is, and then we go to this alternate world where we would assume that the same person is doing the killings, which they are responsible. So then the mystery of that is not there. So when the mask is finally pulled off and we see it's Joel McHale, it didn't feel. I mean, it wasn't giving.
Well, I just
anything.
don't care. And then in the third act reveal is that Justin Long, who's now the mayor in this alternate reality, is hypnotized.
We get a very lifetimey moment where there's like the mayor in front of the townspeople, which are comprised of like 17 people, so it feels very small. And then they all literally have like like their eyes are glowing. So then, I mean, clearly there's a supernatural component to the story, but then is Justin Long like possessing these people?
And then Justin Long's almost kind of is he doing like Max Schreck, Christopher Walken from Batman Returns?
Well, it's not that good.
It's not, but
getting back to the pacing, when Winnie shows up, so then I was getting totally killer vibes because when that main character bounces back to the 80s, she has to try to like fit in, but that makes more sense. And I had that character in Totally Killer, I thought I enjoyed that movie very much. I thought the lead was kind of dull.
She's kind of the least interesting part, but still, and again, there's nothing wrong with Jane Widdop's performance, who's giving me kind of, based on how she's styled, like early 90s Bridget Fonda mixed with Kirsten Dunst. There's nothing innately wrong with it, it's just boring. I'm not led to care for anything about it.
Well, in Totally Killer, everything else that's going on is interesting enough to keep her afloat. But in this one, it's like she just shows up and then she immediately grabs Barney, weirdo, and tells her like, I know you. And then she goes to her old house, or her house, she thinks, and she's telling them like, I'm your niece, I'm your daughter. And then her trying to convince Joel McHale she's his daughter happens after the midway point. So it just felt like the pacing was really strange. And like, what are we doing? Is she gonna, because we also don't get any mention of like, what is she going to do if she can't get back to...
Well, where's she sleeping at night?
And then, where...
How long is this happening? It's cold, it's winter, and she doesn't have a home to go to, presumably with Bernie, but I don't think she does go there. But it's just like, you don't have a thought of like, how am I going to pay to have food? I need sustenance as I figure out this Nancy Drew mystery.
The town hall moment, or the town center moment where the residents look hypnotized, Winnie and Bernie assault Justin Long's character. Like, they start punching him. That felt weird.
Justin Long also is doing his speech is affected in a way that if you close your eyes, to me, he sounds just like Dustin Hoffman playing Tootsie.
Then at the end, when Winnie goes back to her life, her mother tells her that she's sorry that they didn't let her heal. And I just thought that just felt like a really convenient way to try to wrap up a story that we didn't develop.
It should have been darker, more satirical, because at that Christmas party at the year mark after she's killed the Justin Long character originally, she's in the state of depression. They buy her athletic wear for Christmas, and they get her brother a truck, and the mom's like, well, we both got you something you needed.
I want to expound on that because Joel McHale's character seems like he's under the thumb of Justin Long as like a real estate agent. But the truck they buy their son, their gay son who's into sports, and they think he's like the better kid, I guess, is like a very expensive truck, like a $70,000, $80,000 truck. If Joel McHale's character can afford that truck, I would think that he wouldn't seem so meek and like scared of his boss. I would think that he would have some control over his life, because we see that he can't even say, I'm not working on Christmas. Like, okay, I guess I have to go. Right? I mean, it doesn't seem weird that a family that can afford to do that the head of the household wouldn't have more of a voice.
Right. It's same thing with Buck chasing down Winnie on the street before the change up happens and saying that you killed my brother, I should kill you. Your brother was a serial killer. I don't know why anybody's trying to make this young woman feel any kind of guilt. And we haven't really talked about the lesbian aunt played by Catherine Isabel, whose character name is Gail Prescott, which is of course a Scream reference. But she's a good genre cred because she's in Ginger Snaps, which is a pretty damn good werewolf horror comedy.
I don't have anything else to say.
I don't know. Just if we're gonna make these self-reflexive horror comedies that are, getting us where having audiences, I guess, mainline nostalgia for another time. I don't know. They need to be a lot smarter. It's just, I don't know. I don't know who this movie's for that would love it.
What would you give this film?
1.5. I
would give this film 1.5 out of 5. Hit the thanks button. Listen to our podcast. Bye.